Well, we're at the hour, so I want to get started because it's going to probably be a very healthy discussion. Obviously, we have 12:30 to 1:30. It's going to be the first 30, the first 30 minutes probably going to be a little bit of a discussion. Also, sharing tool sets, and I'm going to announce the speakers in a second. And then maybe the last 15 minutes, we're going to have questions and answers. Maybe we even have more, depending on how folks are getting excited about this. We have about 40 people on the call right now, so I want to introduce Ryan Ramos, heralding from Milwaukee right now. Obviously, if you guys saw the invite and saw his bio, pretty influential figure in the design industry. We want to talk. Also want to introduce Hector Rodriguez, who actually happens to be a classmate of Ryan, and that's how we got connected. And Hector's been doing some incredible work in the AI space, also, very active on LinkedIn. If you happen to be on LinkedIn as one of the folks that are calling in, follow Hector. He's some really useful tips for designers in the AI space. And then our very own Sherry Popovsky / Sherry Eckholm. We used to work together at Rollerblade 100,000 years ago. And Sherry is really leading Loft initiative in AI transformation. We have a few corporate clients as well as our internal toolkits. And then we have a couple other folks from Loft. I'm Gregor, founder of Loft. Let's get started. So we really are talking about AI for creative leaders. Really, this panel discussion started as us all jumping on a call and said, hey, we should record this. And then we said, hey, we should maybe do a webinar about it. And we've had 180 people sign up. So it's obviously a topic of interest. Love to do some housekeeping. We do these webinars once a month. If you go to the next page, yeah, we actually have the next one coming up about user-centered design systems. So that's actually live right now to sign up. And then the folks here on the call already are planning the next one. So keep your eyes up on the next generation of AI. We might have a deep dive around some focus areas. And then if you happen to be in Raleigh the end of the month, Loft Raleigh is hosting Health Tech and UX Mixer. You can also sign up on that. So all of these are going to be distributed on our socials. So keep an eye on that. Let's jump in. You want to stop sharing? And I want to actually open up the conversation with an announcement that was done last week. So ChatGPT or OpenAI actually announced Sora, which is a video, prompt to video platform. Sherry actually got all crazy about it. So I want to actually open it up for Sherry. Tell us about it and what do you think is going to happen with these announcements?
Well, I mean, if you haven't checked it out, please do. I mean, just you can go on YouTube and just do a search for Sora demo video, and it's really pretty mind-blowingly impressive. Yes, of course, these are videos that are generated from voice to video, and they show the kind of prompts that they use. One of them, I think it was like Labrador puppies playing in the snow. And if you remember, like I'm whatever, maybe I'm dating myself. Like I remember when Disney's Brave, all anybody talked about was the fact that they could render her red hair, and it took them like a year and a half to like build the team and the rendering engines to be able to like make her hair kind of blow pretty, and like that was the big talk. And now, I mean, it's literally just talk and with a few prompts, and you create this amazing imagery. And so, when I think about that, one, what does that mean for hyper personalization, meaning like curation of content and the things that I want to see? But when I think about also product design, in the process of product design, we would do some thumbnails, and then you jump into CAD and you do some rough forms, and then you go through that process, then you create the geometry that you then feed into a rendering engine that then determines where the lights and the cameras are and how the camera moves and how the materials are, reflections off the materials and all of that. That essentially, like, it goes away. Now, yes, we still need actual 3D data for manufacturing, but there's a whole part of the process now that's completely changing. And so, what I want to know is, or better understand is, how do we adapt to that process? And what are the things that are going to be really important to us as designers, and the skills that really make us important and valued, and the things that we maybe just have to let go of?
Right. And actually
Yeah.
on the back of the Sora announcement, and I want to throw this over to Hector actually, was already kind of a fallout where, B footage obviously is a massive part of Hollywood and people build whole studios around it. And there were announcements basically people halting investments in kind of studio space and building, in Atlanta, building basically studios just because they don't know what's going to happen with AI, right? I mean, Hector, you're on the forefront of the kind of the angst of people like, hey, is AI taking my job? Maybe you can talk a little bit about like what you hear through your engagement with the LinkedIn community and how you feel that narrative is
Yeah.
shaping.
Yeah, I think you see these tools and we're, pretty impressed by, I saw them and I posted about it. It was like WTF, like what is happening? Like it's moving. And not because, we didn't know this was coming, but just how quickly it came, right? And just how impactful it is. And and it really, and behind the allure of it, and I would say the surface level, at the end of the day, professionals like us, need control, right? So we need to be able to tell it to do certain things, and so our use cases are very specific, right? So Sora will help us, right? If, whoever is in the entertainment industry, or even for folks like us, I could see it for storytelling, for product design, right? Just to be able to tell a story better for a concept, and so can graphic design, so can branding, and but I think what I find very interesting is that while it may be a while before a tool like Sora is part of, professional entertainment industry folks, a toolbox, right? Like a one that they can utilize, fully. What it will be a part of is the toolbox of the independent person, right? Like that 16, 18-year-old that's going to go on his own at night and take that idea that's been sitting in their head and then put it out there and then put it on YouTube and social media, and then start building a following with their storytelling, right? And it lowers that barrier so that very creative people, right? And that's the key, right? Very creative people that already have these ideas and these storytelling abilities to now be able to put that out there. And so that inevitably will put the pressure on business, right? Like in this case, Hollywood and the entertainment industry, because now you have all the eyeballs going over there as well, right? And so I find that it'll be interesting how that plays out. So that business will have to adapt, right? Even if those tools aren't being employed in a professional grade production, right? Where it's a different ball game, right? It's a production game at scale. Uh, they're still going to have to react to this new way of doing things. So
Right.
Yeah.
So do you think creativity is dead, or do you think it's just a new horizon of creativity?
yeah,
Like,
no, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was just gonna jump in because I'm biting my tongue. This is like, it's all gonna come down to like fundamental issues, right? As people that are creatives and we're all trying to make a living, and there's the ethics questions, there's the creativity is it dead question, and it's the tool question. But to me, it's like analogies in terms of creating a narrative of like the evolution of art and design and how we moved from a pencil to a ruler um to clip art to Photoshop. It's this evolution that happens when we start to um really focus on what's important, and creativity isn't dead because you need to curate it. You need to have that eye. You need to understand proportion. You need to understand how to take two things and make it appropriate for your client,
Mhm.
and understanding that. So to me, I
Yeah.
think it's not dead.
I think Ryan, you brought this up actually on our pre-call. I thought it really resonated with me. In the art world, right? Some of the most influential artists of the 20th century, Andy Warhol, Jeff Koons, they're
Yep.
curators, right? They really are not necessarily creators. It's about the editorial aspect of the design versus the pure craft of it. And I feel maybe AI is elevating that in the design sense more, right? Love to hear your perspective on that.
And I don't think it's like just using AI as it is. I feel like when I leverage I manipulate the images too. So I'm touching it, I'm shifting it, I'm helping it. It's almost like mood boards, right? When you take
Right.
inspirational images and you start to leverage that to help define your ideas. Um, I think that's how creativity is still there, right? We're still authoring it. Like when you see our mod on a toilet, it changed the toilet into something else, right? I
Right.
mean,
Yep.
And
Yeah,
Gregor, I think you're the one who brought this up. You were talking about designers and the how and the why. And I'd love it if you could expound on that just a little bit, because I really think that's provocative and on point.
Yeah. And I think, and maybe Hector, you can chime in there too. Like there is, obviously the disruption of AI is happening in how you create artwork, right? You still need a designer to like envision what that artwork will be. So the question of why you design is not solved by AI. The question of how you design is really altered and changed. And I love following you because obviously everybody plays with the toolkits, but you use a very creative combination of tools, from prompt based to like modified, back to prompt, back to kind of like refinement level using Crea. Like there's all these nuances that you have to almost build your own. And this is actually in the Slack right now. A question is like, what specific tools do we deploy? I think there's not one tool. That's the beauty of it, right? There's a million approaches. Sometimes you start with a prompt, sometimes you start with an image and then go to a prompt. So it's really that the creativity of the individual is really in how to harness the power of AI to get the images you need.
Yeah, I think the how and the why thing, when it came up the other day, you brought it up, and it really resonated with me because it's something I talk about in the work I do, and it's something that comes up quite often on LinkedIn conversations. And it actually came up the other day. Like somebody came on there and was talking about how if like if I feel as proud doing this work as I do like traditional work, like not non-AI design work. And then we went back and forth, and one of the things that came up is, I brought up how, back when Ryan and I met, it was the era where we'd like go to school and start the rendering, get it all set up, start it, and then leave, and then come back in the morning, like 10, 12 hours later.
Right.
And then, and everything, right? I caught the tail end of Canson paper like rendering, right? Where you like
Yeah.
you do the wash on there, and then you like literally do another layer and cut it, exacto it out and tape it, like physical layers of to do a rendering. And then over the years, of course, like as time went on, then you had Photoshop layers, right? You didn't need to do physical layers anymore, and then CAD renderings eventually got really fast, and now you can see it right away. You don't have to spend that much time. And then the person was saying like, well, but I'm sure you missed that feeling of that hard work that you put in to get that output. And the answer is like, no, I do not. I do not miss 12-hour renderings, and I do not miss like cutting everything out, because at this stage of my career, the how, I love the craft. I've been sketching my entire life, right? Like it's why I got to school, like it's how I got this career, right? Like that was the fuel, right? But at the end of the day, that's the how. That's one thing I do to get my why, right? To get the result, like what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm trying to solve a need. I'm trying to make an impact with the work I do. Whatever it is I'm trying to do.
Right.
Sketching is a tool, Photoshop is a tool, all these things are tools. And so the answer is AI then to me is just another tool, and it happens to be that there's just a bunch of different tools in there
I
that
was,
I can use, right?
yeah, I think, I love it's the bunch of tools, because when I look at the questions coming in, a lot of them are about, yes, but tell me the tool. And, I I'm married to an industrial designer, and he's leading large teams. And even, he is like, which tool is the right tool, because this evolution has happened so fast that there is, for like Hector and us, we have the luxury of experimenting, if you will, to find, as new tools come up and how they fit into our workflow. But, if you're leading large teams, you have to still like be efficient and get the job done. And so, like, which tools are worth investing my time in learning, and which
Right.
tool is at the right part of the process? Are they further up in that very front end conceptual side? Is it further downstream? There isn't there doesn't seem to be like a a playbook, if you will.
Yeah, and actually, another quick thought on that too that just popped into my head as you were talking is that there's, I would say, there's probably best practice, even even non-AI, right? There's VR modeling, there's certain surface modeling versus solid modeling. There's all these best practices. Same with AI. There's production AI tools. In my world, there's like production AI tools, exploration, and then refinement type of tools. Those are like the pillars in my world. But even then, like that's sort of the sort of the best practices sort of works for most people. But 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 then it's an individual thing, right? Like there are certain people that go straight to CAD, right? Like they don't they and that's just the way they see things, right? And it's not wrong. Like they do really great work because I think as a design profession, we try to make, sketching has become such a, it's become synonymous with design effectively to the point that like it's, it was never supposed to be like design is sketching, right? But it sort of became that. And so then people think if you don't sketch, if you're not a good sketcher, then you're not really a good designer. And I've seen plenty of people that are extremely talented designers that can't sketch at all, right? And so I think if your brain and the way you work just lends itself to CAD, then it lends itself to CAD. If it lends itself to AI, I'm sure there are going to be people that just gravitate towards AI because it lends itself, like for me, as an example, AI lends itself to the way that I think and the way I work already, right? I think that's why I've been able to adopt it pretty strongly. Where for some people it may not, it may just not be the type of that dynamic, right? Doesn't work with them, right? So
I think I have to credit you, Gregor, for bringing the fact that it again, and to Hector's point earlier about the how and why, goes back to the why are we doing something, right? Is it the act of sketching or illustrating, or is it actually the act of solving a problem and what your client needs or what you need? Is it what are we trying to design for? And those are the tools that we're leveraging. Is you have a a box of crayons that you can leverage to get to the design that meets the why and the how. And I think that's what's really important is these are tools that help us amplify and be more efficient, right? At the end of the day, we're trying to be efficient for our own revenue, for the client's revenue, for, at the end of the day, you want to get the best idea down on paper. And if you can amplify and hyper hypercharge the ability to get more ideas out there and get your vision executed on, then that's really what's impression.
I remember, yeah, I remember quickly a quick story. Like Ryan and I went to MIAD, Milwaukee
Yeah,
Institute of Art and Design,
top
and so
story.
I would say it was a very like skill heavy school, right? Like just skills were very important, and so I remember, and I don't know if this was taught by the professors, or if it was just the students that sort of drove this, right? Like the class before was just sort of raising the level, but there was this idea that you couldn't use underlays, right? And
Yeah.
so it was just all everything, and I happened to be a good sketcher, so I did like well in that regard, right? And but no underlays, and I still remember to this day, like I got my first like a consultancy job after I graduated, and like first thing they were like, "Yeah, what are you doing? Like just literally use the underlays. Like why are you wasting time?" And it was like,
Right.
"Oh yeah, this is crazy." And then because it was like, listen, it's just get the ideas out. Like it doesn't matter if you can sketch a perfect hand, holding that product. Like just literally put a hand photo under there and trace it every time.
But I do think there's something to be said about like understanding what good proportions
Yeah,
are.
yeah, of course, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
and we're not saying because there was a comment I think MG about like the lazy designers or like being lazy. It's not about that. It's like amplifying that, and you really need to understand like what's good design, what's not good design, what's
That's right.
good UX practices, and that's what's really important.
And
That's right.
also, I think we are forgetting to, part of the value that we bring as designers is the fact that we understand how to marry context and those latent desires with human factors, usability, manufacturability, like all of these things, especially if you've been in an industry for any amount of time, there's knowledge there that all like inherently plays a part in the decisions that you make as a designer. And so, right now we're talking about shortening time frames in terms of uh, form design and and being able to explore much more along the edges than we ever could. But still, like, and it's going to be up to us people, like we have to own the dialogue about why we are still valuable and important in the design and manufacturing world. So
Yeah, I mean that topic that is the majority of the effort that I put in is right at that sort of
Yeah.
cross section, and it's this it is this is where it gets thorny and tough. The conversations get a little bit tough because it's not black and white, right? Like it's not just like you either pick up AI tools or don't pick up AI tools. Like that's the black and white version. Like and it's just not that way. And my belief, right or wrong, as I've said plenty of times online, is that if we don't at least pick up these tools, right, and start learning them and at least trying to understand them, it's not like if and I'm not downplaying any other department but or function. It's not like if marketing or sales or manufacturing, business stakeholders, it's not like if any of them are also going to put the tools down, right? They're going to start utilizing these tools for to improve their day-to-day operations. Like marketing as an example will start utilize that's like a really specific one that's already happening. Like I already hear it from my clients. Marketing's utilizing it because they have to wait on design, so they're just going to do it themselves right now so that they can just do their job better and move on, right? Make less friction, right? And so it's not that they don't like design, right? It's just that it's friction and people want less friction, so they're going to do that. Manufacturing's doing that already. I know for a fact that's happening. Manufacturers are saying, hey, we now have AI tools. We will do the design for you, right? Because look at this, look at what we've built, these systems. And so it's not this world where it's like, oh, we designers need to protect what we do and let's not devalue ourselves. It's like, no, other functions will attempt to devalue us. Not even attempt, they will end up devaluing us just as a result of their initiatives. And so it is, Sherry, up to us to really be proactive and speak up for what we're doing and find that, because I believe it. I believe that we actually have our world, design creative world, has probably the most to gain, I think, at least short midterm, right, with AI, because it needs what we bring to the table, the ability to listen and empathy and understanding human insights and somehow translating human insights to commercial products. Like that is a very strong skill, right? Not Photoshop rendering, but that is the really strong skill.
Yeah,
and
and I think
ultimately, I was just going to say it's about gaining a competitive edge, and understanding what that competitive edge means. I saw somebody asking about topic of leadership roles in AI. I mean, it really is about understanding how those tools will give you a competitive edge. And as of right now, it has to do with depth and breadth and speed. And
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think, one thing I want to say is, the ultimate weapon for a designer is his brain, right? It's not his hand, it's not his ability to render, it's not his ability to create sexy images, right? I mean, sexy images are a means of communicating with the outside world, but it's not going to make your design better, right? So if somebody said, hey, what's my workflow? How do I adapt in AI? It's like just, it's really about understanding design at its principles and how to, basically leverage the process to get better products in the world, right? And that is the only thing that really matters. How you get there, and AIs might be accelerating it. It might actually kind of dilute it, right? I mean, I've had so many issues. For example, 3D printing evolved as a as a tool, right? And now everybody's like, well, you can 3D print it, it's done, right? You don't realize that there's this whole process of DFM and getting it to be mass manufactured and all these like back end, right? So that's not going to go away with AI, right? You can visualize your idea much quicker. It gives you more time to think about your idea. Really, it's really a saver for the design process in a sense.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be, I have this colleague I'm working with on projects, and we talk about how AI will more than likely usher in this age of automation, right? Like when a lot of these tasks we do, and when that happens, then it'll give us more time to then focus on the meaningful things, right? The things that are going to matter, when it comes where we, like, I agree, where we add value. That's where I think we truly add value.
And I mean, the whole human-centered aspect, right? So as designers, we have a set schedule. Many times we don't spend enough time with users, right? Because we know we gotta go to the concept phase because it's such a long time sometimes to get out in the world. If you can shorten that getting out of the world, period, you have a lot more time to talk to users, formalize your approach, be more educated about what their needs are. It is, transformative in a sense. The same thing is happening to UX. I mean, this talk is more about product design and physical space, but on the UX side, the time it takes to code is so long that a lot of times UX designers have like a week to prepare a sprint before they have to actually start UXing, right? So it's a lot of times these tools could really galvanize complete changes in your workflow and free up a lot of the time that you don't have right now for
it's almost like it's something like if this is the amount of time that we are needed for, like it's gonna stay, hopefully it stays the same, right? It's just you're just switching around, what you spend your time on. Like I can't wait to the day that I can do CAD by just like doing that. I'm like, look, I want this to happen. You know how long I wanted to do this for, my entire career. I wanted to, like, look, I just want that to happen, right? I don't want to sit there for, like 8 hours trying to get that perfect, like I just want to like.
Or when we were sanding models, right?
Yeah,
now
that's right. I just want to kind of sand.
Yeah. And we can
Wet
3D
sanding.
print now, and it's like it's similar. It expedites that time. You're sanding, you're breathing in all that, but you feel it. You still feel it at the end of the day. You still get that tangible object.
Yeah.
Like
that's what I want. I want to be able to feel it. I do that with cars, and like I'll let go and I'll just feel the surface, right? Just to see.
Yep.
I want to do that. I want to do that. Like I want a glove, that I can feel, like a VR thing. You just feel it going.
So a couple of things I want to bring up. So we are half an hour in. A couple of things. First of all, there were a lot of comments about the erosion of the designer, right? Basically, race to the bottom. And I think we all feel, right, that race to the bottom is not going to happen. I mean, it might happen in some aspects of the field. If you do, the same thing over and over again, there might be an automation that's going to happen with AI, right? But for designers that work in creative fields, I would say it's probably more like a shifting of where you focus in the process, and you're gonna gain some on the front end because you're automating or you're accelerating some of the back end, right?
It used to be real quickly, like I was a point on. So it used to be that CAD renderers, like that was like a super like niche skill, and they were really good professional. Like the people that were really good at CAD rendering were like, doing all these crazy things. And then now you just have Keyshot, right? Which I'm not saying it's not easy. It still requires skill, but it's much easier than it was back then, right? And so it's been happening. Like the whole idea, same with digital sketching. Like here I was doing sketching with no underlays and perfecting ellipses and circles. And then here comes Sketchbook Pro and Wacom Cintiqs, where you can literally have ellipse templates there, and you all you have to do is go like this, and it draws the perfect ellipse, right? You still need to know perspective, right? And it's still, you can still be better by knowing the skills, but it definitely made it so that people that maybe didn't have the best line quality, all of a sudden it leveled them up, right? So that has been happening, in at least in my world since I've been doing this, right? The craft side of it has always been getting easier, where more people able to do it. And this will accelerate that. And there will be displacement, and it won't be very comfortable. Like, I'm pretty sure that's the case, but it just means we need to focus on what, where I think we as designers truly add value. Maybe somewhere along the line we started thinking it was in the craft, but that was never the case.
That's the delusion, right? I think designers think it is in the craft, but it's not in the craft. It's in the thought, right? It's in the brain. Your ultimate
Exactly.
design weapon is your brain, right?
And I think that designers, we have always been pretty good about adapting and being flexible. And I think that we need to continue to do that and not fall into the trap of, well, this is our realm. This is how we do it. This is where where we're valued, and this is the process that we take. We have to be, we can't hold those kind of darlings close anymore. And I think that, we can, as professionals and designers, we can show just what can be done when you start to embrace the tools. And there's going to be a learning curve. Like, I remember trying to learn Alias to build keyboards, and then trying to render. I mean, it was just like this complex engine. But then when you did, then you could translate into other CAD packages pretty easily, right? Because you start to learn and understand how they work and what the tools mean and what the results are. So, we are at the start of like this uncomfortable learning curve point too.
And then I think it's just, go ahead, Ray.
Just from an education standpoint, I think this is going to be a huge turning point for. I noticed Ben Dombrowski is a teacher at my end, but he's an instructor at my end, and the whole education. What are you teaching? Young designers from the beginning about proportions, things like that, and then what is the technology side? So I think that whole realm of education, design education, is going through a shift right now. And I think that's an exciting time because you are implementing all of these new technologies, but you still need to teach the fundamental principles of design.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna bring up education, Ryan. So you brought it because it's gonna be like, I think the key, I think experienced folks, right? We already have we already learned the foundational parts. I already sat there and sketched my way to understanding form and foam and all these different things, right? Enough CAD models, enough things to get there. But so yeah, so it's going to become really important for us to leadership, I will say, like educators, leaders at design companies, experienced designers, to figure out a way that we don't lose that, right? That is a real threat, right? If we lose all those foundational things with the upcoming, sort of generation of designers. So how are we going to do that, right? Because it doesn't mean that just because we're using AI that has to go away, right? It just means we have to be very aware and conscious about how we're going to adapt, right? So that we make sure that doesn't get left behind, right?
Yeah. And it is, again, about owning that dialogue. I mean, coming from the world of research and design strategy, I mean, when Google like came along, right? It's like, well, anybody can do research. You just sit at your desk, you type some words in, and everyone can do it. Not really, right? And so is there going to be a time, I think we're going to experience people who are like, well, now anybody can be a designer. I just have to type a few letters in, and I create something. And it's probably going to be frustrating for us, but we still have to own the dialogue and kind of shepherd people through it too.
And that's
I
why
think,
I'm not afraid of sharing the tools. Like for example, Viscom, you have like Midjourney, you have Open AI with Sora, you have all of these chat GPT to define, like they're all out there, but at the end of the day, you're hiring me and what my brain is like, the experiences that we've had, the proportions, like you're hiring Gregor, you're hiring Sherry, you're hiring Hector for these fundamental principles that we've defined and appreciate. And that you don't get from AI, right? AI is a crowdsourced, image sourced or database sourced generator, but without that person with a vision of like what are you trying to define or produce, then it's kind of lost. And that's why I don't feel like we're a commodity. It's the asset. It's what it's the worth. It's the value that we provide.
yeah,
Mhm.
so there's actually a comment right now. So one guy said, what AI tools are the ones you recommend? I would say all of them, right? So ChatGPT, Midjourney, Korea AI, Viscom. I mean, they're all useful for some aspect of the journey, right? And you have to combine them together to get best results. There's not one tool that does it all. You
Yeah.
really have to jump between the different ones, right?
Yep.
Hector has a really good workflow that he shares. We actually are also sharing some stuff, so you can find it. But I would say, for all you folks out there who are looking for tool recommendations, try to play with them. They're all free. You can, literally spend an afternoon, a little design project, and try to see where you're getting to.
Yeah, there's different levels, right? You can utilize, these closed the closed models, right? Like the mid journeys and the chats and all those, or you can build your own. You can go in Stable Diffusion and you can, Comfy UI and that world, and then you can literally build your own little workflows, right? To that, and then train your own models, right? You can feed it your own images, train your own models at a localized level. There's so many different options. At the end of the day, that is a big challenge, right? Like for figuring out what to study. There's a lot of
Right.
paralysis
I
there
think
too,
that's
because
why
there's
people are so
so
interested in the
many.
topic, right? Because everybody's
Yeah,
like, what am I doing? There's so many options. I think you have
yeah,
to have to embrace the journey, right? It's pretty much a journey anyway, right? And
right.
but design is a journey, right? Design itself is a journey. There's no set principles. I mean, I always joke in the studio about this. Like some of the best ideas we've ever had were complete, like, accidents. Like, something, didn't work. And then out of the sudden we tried something else. Oh, this is actually, I think you have to decide where you take your journey and the tool just has to follow that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Whatever falls. Yeah, and then people ask me, what do you recommend? And I always recommend just go online and follow people that are like that before AI they were already doing their thing, right? They were, like, so I follow this, architects, and I follow photographers, and I follow different people that were there already doing it, and then now they're doing it with AI, and so I'm able to see. So yesterday I had a call, for example, with a guy that was walking me through how he lays out all his Stable Diffusion tools, right? Like, or his workflows. And yes, super interesting, right? And so now I'm like, okay, I got to put more time into that to figure that out. But there are people out there, like people are happy to help, right? Because at the end of the day, I mean, it's part of what I've done, right? I have a calendar and people book it all the time, and I sit there for 30 minutes and answer questions, and because at the end of the day, I want design to elevate, right? Like I would hate that after all this work that we did as a profession to now have chief creative officers at that level, right? That it's taken a while to get to that point, for it
And there
all
was
to
a
sort of come tumbling down because AI now, business folks think that AI is gonna do everything for them.
and
Right.
there was a statement on here, I think it was from Michael, I believe, about the dreaded marketeer that comes in and says, "I want you to make this," and comes with the AI generated file and say, "Hey, make this." But then that's where the value comes in from us. We understand, okay, here's why your drawing, your sketch, or your image, you can't make this way because of the manufacturing knowledge that we have, the different processes, um, all these different things. I think Shantanu brought that up in the comments as well. It's the process to get from that image to real is there's a journey there and an experience that's the value that we provide.
And
Yeah.
and don't you think in a world where there's more of that, right? Like as you're going to see more and more of that, wouldn't you think that a potential outcome is that people, translators, right? The call us translators are going to become more valuable, right? People that can somehow take all that and turn it into reality, then in theory would be more important, right?
I
Right.
would rather
Yeah.
have an image come in like that versus someone saying, I need more wow. I need more it factor. I need more, at least there's an image that comes
Right.
with
You're
it.
not.
You
Yeah.
now
It does.
have that
It's not.
conversation.
We call that the rock hearing exercise, where someone will
Yeah,
come to you and they give, they have it in their head and they can't put it into an image, and so you spend your time like, well, is it this one? Is it this one?
yeah.
Is it this one? At least they could, people could come to you with something that, extracts their vision out of their brain. So
Right.
yeah.
It's still the process of making. I do want to I think there's a bunch of comments about the legal side. And
Oh,
I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to pretend to be one, but I know Shantanu who's here is, and he's doing a ton of AI generated stuff. Um, and the legalities of that. There's a lot of things like with Midjourney, right? Everything that Midjourney creates is technically theirs, right? But unless you modify it, that becomes yours. The prompts also can start to become like copyrighted. So there's this no new realm of who owns what and what owns, whatever you're developing.
yeah, there's
Well,
So
no,
and
oh, go
I would
ahead.
like to also say, like, and this is like N of one, so I could be, this is just my own perception, but is worrying about the ownership of those kind of assets, is it like applying for a patent before you've even tested whether or not anybody wants your product or your idea? It feels a little cart before the horse right now.
yeah. And I can
You know,
see like with artists, right, that are hand drawing
for
something
sure.
that I think is full put on. But to me, I think that gives even more inherent value to that original art, right? It's like, prints are never gonna cost as much as that original Picasso. It creates more if you do a piece that you did by hand, that can be in some respects more celebrated or worth more when you do something and draw it out and maybe you sign it and you sell it for more than what that print was worth. To me, it becomes a question of value again, right? Where are you putting the time? What do people at the end of the day want from a client perspective? And I think that becomes, the ethics question that always comes about. Are you stealing someone's work? But
Right.
I'm not stealing one person's work and then using that image as the reference. This is the concept. It's not that at all. It's
Right.
taking all of these images into one and then curating it, drawing on top of it, and then giving it out
I think
as the work.
you have a very good point. And actually, I see Jason Sadler on the call. Like we've had this conversation about keyframes, right? So if you do animation, a lot of times there is like people do the keyframes and then somebody else is doing all the frames in between. And then, obviously Jason is a character developer for the movie industry. Like, and maybe Jason, you can, drop the notes in there. But are you afraid of losing your job?
Is it okay to join in? I'm not one of the
Yeah.
panelists. Is that okay?
Yeah.
um, no, I don't think I'm afraid. I mean, everything you guys are saying, it's helped validate so many of these. I'm balancing fear with diving into the future. And like I remember just first starting out, a lot of old timers in the animation industry were seeing Photoshop, and some of these people they were just like kids again. They were just like, look what you can do. I'm at the end of my career, but I can see all the possibilities. I'm trying to maintain that kind of view towards all of this. And yeah, I one thing you guys mentioned too, I noticed that when Sherry and I went to school together, I studied industrial design, and I remember one of our graphic design teachers was lamenting a bit about like, God, as soon as desktop publishing came out, every print shop in the world just said they could just design logos. I feel like there's going to be a degree of that
Yeah.
But it, like you guys have been saying, it will shake out. It'll shake out, and the quality hopefully will bubble to the
Yeah.
surface. I still have yet to see anybody design a taste button, and I think like you guys are saying
True.
is like that the designer, you're saying it much more eloquently than I am right now, but all the things that a designer does, I think it is harnessing all those and bringing it into context. But
And
yes,
Jason, what kind of work are you doing? Animation?
I do. I do design. I'm a visual development artist and feature animation. So I do characters, environments, but I sometimes do overall style design, like production design for films as well too.
Yeah, so
But
animated films, movies.
yes,
Oh,
yeah,
very
yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But industrial design was my foundation. I learned the design process through product design and it brought it to entertainment. So
Very cool.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, Jason is a good example. But I mean, I always say this, when I teach, and there's always, I think there's this great angst around students, will I have a job? What is my job gonna be? What degree should I go, industrial design or graphic design? And I always say, if you have like, the Swiss Army knife of degrees is industrial design, right? Because I've seen industrial designers do packaging, environments, entertainment, furniture. Like you can literally apply your skills to any industry in the world and probably find a fit. So I think that's the beauty of this education. And in a sense, if there's some educators on the line, I think AI will highly accelerate that because it's even diversify more of like where we can go as designers, right? It gives us more avenues to apply our skills.
Yeah, my
And
wife and partner are graphic designers, so it's dangerous because they're very specialists. I can't do what she does. And that's very similar to me in terms of AI, right? There's those nuances. Like, I love being an industrial designer because I can be really dangerous and really make, logos, things like that. But then you call in the specialists to really like focus and dial it in to get to that next level. And to me, that is a great analogy. Again, it's like you are hiring people that understand how to leverage this tool in the best way possible that will hit your customers' targets, your targets, and your overall vision.
yep. And I hope that there's also leadership on this call or on this webinar as well. Because, a point I want to make is that as you start to incorporate these tools and these processes into your teams and their processes, it's really important to remember that, what you're adopting is going to fit into a larger ecosystem of teams and departments who are also employing and embracing all the different kinds of AI tools. And so I've seen this already. There is certainly strength in, instead of building up silos, making sure that there's communication across, because the assets and the data that's being created now are going to be really important across that entire value chain, both in the physical world and the commercialization of a meta world. So like these are all things that as leaders, you need to be communicating with your peers to make sure that you make this entire ecosystem more efficient and
Yeah,
everybody's aligned.
yeah, I've been doing a fair amount of work. Actually, most of the work I've
Same.
been doing lately has been around AI adoption at organizations, and because I've been teaching a lot, I've seen it sort of play out quite a bit. And what happens is it's the teaching of the technical part of just teaching, the technical aspect of it all is the easiest part, right? Like there's new tools, new workflows, new skills required. It's the easiest part. It's still actually very difficult. It just happens to be the easiest part. The other part, the actually much more difficult parts are the emotional and the cognitive aspects of it, because it is, if you have like, let's just say the emotional side. If you have a team, right? Like, so let's say I have, I'm the head of an organization. If my entire team is fearing for their job, like, how that already is going to create a very difficult dynamic, right? Because they don't know if they should be learning the tool. I had somebody call me the other day. So I had a call yesterday. This was with a person that works at a large organization. She's learning AI, yet the leadership at her company is not about it, right? So they've told her don't use it, but she's still doing it. Like she's literally calling people like me and considering doing classes on her own, to learn, because she's like, I don't want to fall behind. Like, what if I need to learn it as a skill? Right. She's like a mid-level designer, and 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 the point is that the problem is not whether this company is going ahead with AI or not. The problem is that they have no position on it, like no official position saying like, hey, this is the reason we're not going forward with it. There's no transparency. So then you have employees, designers just trying to figure out where they're gonna land, right? So it's like really critical for organizations to at least have a position and then be transparent and relay it, right? Whatever that position is. And I've seen everything. I've seen on the legal side, I've seen plenty of companies, large organizations that have signed off on it. And they're like, yep, we are doing it. There's these rules you have to follow, but we're signing off on it. I've seen equally sized organizations on the other end saying we're not signing off on it yet, right? So you're getting both. And I think at the end of the day, I'm not a legal person at all, right? So, but what I have seen from corporate legal teams is that I think at the end of the day, the decision they make is, do we think is it a bigger risk to wait or is it a bigger risk to go forward? And ultimately they make that call, and everybody has their own, they're the ones that are going to have to, deal with the repercussions of it. And they've decided no or yes, right?
Yep. And we are, like we're coming into this, we're on the wave of generative AI, but IT and data science, I mean, they've already been dealing with AI in terms of machine learning, computer vision, deep learning. And, I think we can learn something from them, as leaders and practitioners, is that, the fastest way for adoption within an organization is through prototyping and showing success. And to do that, you have to be really choiceful on what you decide to prototype, and the tools you choose to prototype with. If you were a team, in your IT team, and you chose to prototype something that was going to be really difficult and a heavy lift and probably wouldn't illustrate, an operational efficiency ROI for 2 years, I guarantee the sparkle has worn off that initiative, right? It's about choosing, things that you can wrap your arms around, that you can really illustrate the value that this is bringing both to your teams to lift them up and have them feel supported, but also for the organization to say, this is awesome. I want to support this even more.
Right. And I think one thing really, I mean, for folks who are in the leadership, especially also in the education side, embracing these tools in a manner where it's really not being leveraged for bad, but for like excelling, creativity, excelling process, progress, and excelling kind of the speed of creation. There is means of basically looking at the downside in a structured fashion. And I would say, these tools are still so removed, Midjourney, Kriya, all these generative tools are still so removed from the end product, I would say. Nobody's hitting a button saying, this is my design, we're gonna send to production. That I would even say, like, trademark concerns are not as of an issue, right? So I brought this up on our pre-call, but like if Brown would have ever sued Apple, because Apple literally took the Brown language and borrowed it. I think nothing that Midjourney ever will put out is going to be as close to a Apple product to a Brown product than we even imagine. So I think there is, what does trademark mean? What does patent protection mean? I think there is the nuances of that narrative that can be shaped. and I'm even if Midjourney owns all your prompts and owns all your images, the end product is probably going to be so, as Ryan said, it's got to be different because the creator is putting its own vision on top of it.
Yeah, you don't want to create something that's just someone else's work. You want something new that's evolved from the work, and that's the really important part is you're still trying to define something that's new to the world when you're using these tools.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, that's the whole point of design, right? Of creation.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
creativity.
yeah, I try. I'm not, and that's yeah, it's such that is the other thorny subject, right? The what you're referencing or what these tools are referencing when they do this, and I know Viscom, has I think they utilize. My understanding is they utilize licensed imagery, right? I think for their data set. Uh, it, what's so tricky about it is that I think it's just hard to hear, right? But effectively, when we posted all of our images on social media, we signed off on it, right? Like we signed those terms of agreement and we put those images up there. And now I'm sure you guys are seeing in the news, right? Like Reddit is selling their data and somebody else is selling their data. And so all these companies are now, I don't think back then when we signed these terms of agreement, we ever thought this was a potential outcome of it. But these companies, the movie studios own all their data. Like all this information is going to become very valuable to these, AI tool companies. And so they're going to start leveraging that, right? And they're going to start using eventually you'll probably see them build these foundational models based on I think it's already happening, right? Like based on all licensed data, right? And so legally, actually I don't know. I'm not going to speak about legal, but you would think that at some point that argument will be tough to make, right? And it doesn't feel any better, like that. That's
Yeah.
that's the problem, right? It still doesn't feel something doesn't feel fully right, right? But we signed those things, that when we were using all those products for free, we kind of knew that was probably.
Well, and I mean, this is a greater conversation, right? I think it has to do with basically, social media and all other aspects of these kind of constructs are defined by legal frameworks, right? And I mean, the patent law is defined by legal frameworks, right? The fact that you can own a patent is by definition a legal construct. So yeah, we have about 3 minutes left. We're planning a part two, which is probably going to dive a little bit more into education and the legal aspects of this. Any last things that you guys want to wrap up? I'm gonna start with Hector, and then we do a little roundtable and close this out.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is great. I think there's, I wasn't reading the comments, but I would see some pop up here and there. And I kind of caught one that said that, that it all sounds rosy, or really good, but it's not, right? At the end of the day, this is as challenging it's the reason I've invested so much time into this is not because I think this is like the greatest thing in the world. It's because it's very concerning, right? Like this is a very challenging thing. And my approach has been to learn as much as get in there and learn. Like that's just the way that I feel better, right? Safer at the end of the day. And so it is not all there is, in my opinion, it will be chaotic, right? And I think, I'm mentally preparing myself for that things will be, chaotic, and I'm trying to do what I can to help out in the ways I can, myself and others, right? Like, and so, but yes, it's not going to be all excitement, we're going to have to
Right.
figure this one out,
I mean, there's real business right behind it. There's business incentive that is pushing a
100%.
narrative, right? So we have to be aware of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan, what's your take?
I was just gonna say it's about a value, right? Defining value, understanding what the value is worth. How is AI going to contribute to the value of what you are doing on a day to day? If you want to sketch, then sketch. If you want to focus on a part of the craft, then do that. This is a tool that can help create efficiency in your process, and also provide added value to your clients and to your even to yourself, you know. But at the end of the day, you still need to understand, to all the educators that are out there, I've been reading the chat, focus on the fundamentals, teaching the fundamentals to students. What is taste? You know, to Jason's point, you need to help define what taste really looks like, what good design looks like before you start jumping into these tools. So that's how I'd like to end.
Thanks. Yeah, Sherry, last words before we wrap up.
Sure. Having, started off as an industrial designer, Jason will probably remember this, we would do typeset with Letraset pens. And if you wanted to do a collage, you cut pictures out, and maybe you had a color printer in your studio to create collages. And, eventually we had Quark, where we could put actual type into a computer at, whatever, 3K a document. And, eventually like it evolved to CAD, and, we weren't pulling clay anymore. This is just another, this is just another step in the journey of how people who think like us, designers, design thinkers, the non-linear thinkers, and the people who want to just get in there and solve the really hard problems, this is just another tool that's going to let us do that better. And I really believe it all comes down to the dialogue that we create around insisting and proving our continued value. That it doesn't really have to do with the tools. It has to do with us, our craft, and what we're innately better at than bean counters and lawyers.
Right. And I think, final words on that, I would say as a design leader, I run a studio. I think Ryan and Hector run studios. Your staff embrace the power of AI and, set aside time to explore and experiment, but with a focus on what you're trying to achieve, right? It's not it's not a pendulum that just like keeps spinning and you just pump out imagery. I think you have to have a focus, what you want to achieve with it. And that's ultimately the goal of any design, right? So I know we're at the hour, we're a little over. Thank you, everybody. We had about 90 people clock in at some point,
Awesome.
taking time out of your busy day. Saloni actually posted, we have a health tech mixer coming up in North Carolina in our office there at the end of the month. And then also a design systems talk next in March. And then we're bringing this probably back later next month. We have to really hone in on like what focus area or what subreddit of AI we're focusing on. But keep your eyes on the social. It's probably going to be something that we all post. So keep in touch. Subscribe to Hector's newsletter. I think he actually brings out something twice a week. Very active. Subscribe to Ryan. Subscribe to our newsletter. There's always goodies out there for people who want to learn. We're very passionate about design. We do this not because we want to make a quick buck. We really want to, elevate the field, and hopefully this dialogue keeps going on. Thank you so much for everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.